In this video, I'm going to show how to do some basic diagram stuff, just how to add in people and define some relationships and add in some basic emotional process symbols. So I'm going to jump into this diagram here that I created. It's empty. And so you've got all of the things that you can add to the diagram here on the left. I'll just make this a little bigger so that we can see all of the objects. If you can't see all of these, this is the total list as of this video. If you can't see them all, that's because the diagram window isn't big enough, and you can see that it adjusts automatically there. The one on the right does as well. So you have to actually make sure that it's tall enough. So these are all the things that you can add to the diagram. The very top is just the basics, which you have the first symbol is a male, second's a female. This is a pair bond or reproductive relationship, if you will. This is a child of symbol to make someone the product of a reproductive unit. And then just a quick shortcut to add parents to a person. So the way this works is you click one of these symbols once, and you can see that the button, it's highlighted a little bit. And then you drag your mouse out here, and you can see there's this little highlight with the same shape that I clicked around the mouse, which means that if I click it again, it's going to put that object onto the diagram right at that location. So I'm going to click the mouse again, and it actually placed a person in there. And then I can click and hold and drag, and I can move the person around. So I can do the same thing. Notice how I can do the same thing to add another one, but first notice how this button isn't dark anymore. It's not selected anymore. That means that if I click the diagram, it doesn't add another person. So basically what it does, it's like clicking, it's turning on a mode where I want to add a particular item. So if I click this female one, you see how the button got dark right there, which means now when I click, I can add a female. And then when I add this female, that button is going to become disabled. So now if I click, I don't add any more females. So it's one click on the button, one on the diagram per object that you add. So now that I've got two people, I can add this pair bond sign. So pair bond is a biological idea. It's a pair bond in order to reproduce. Not that all pair bonds reproduce, but the bond is there. And so you'll notice that when I click that, the button's enabled, but there's no green object, because this object works a little different. This is one where you actually draw it between the people you want to connect. So you take the mouse and you have to make sure that it's within the bounds of this shape. You put it somewhere inside, click and hold, and then pull the mouse down and drag so that the mouse is inside the bounds of the second object, and release the mouse. That's how you add those. And then you'll notice that when you add one of these objects that connects two people with this drawing motion that I had to do, that it automatically adjusts to the people when you move them around. So this is a basic idea with this diagram app. Now let's add a child to this pair bond. So I go up here, I'm going to add a male. I'm going to click the male symbol. I'm going to click again to add it. And then I'm going to click this child of symbol here. You'll notice again the mode turns on, but as I move the mouse out, there's no green highlight with the symbol around it. That's because this is another drawing symbol. And that means that you have to start the draw or the drag from the person who is going to become the child. So I'm going to click here and hold, and then I'm going to move the mouse up, and you'll see there's this line following it, and you basically draw it up to the pair bond you want to add it to, and then you let go. And now that person is a product or a child of this pair bond here. So if I click this, it's going to, and drag them around, it's going to make sure that it draws it in the most technically accurate way possible. So you get to rearrange these objects however it is that you want according to your diagram. And you definitely will end up doing that a lot for every diagram. It'll always be a little bit different depending on the structure of that family system. So a little trick here to be able to move people around is to be able to select them, as I've been doing, right? And that's the normal way. And you just click and drag, and so that's fairly intuitive. But if you want to move more than one person at a time, you can click and drag somewhere where there's a blank area on the diagram, and you can draw a box to select more than one. And then when you drag either one of them, it drags whichever items are selected. Okay, so let's say I add a couple more people here. I'm going to add a female, I'm going to add a male, and I'm going to drag this box to select 3 of them. Now you can see 3 of them are highlighted, which means if I drag any one of these, I'll take the middle one, all 3 of them are going to move. And all of the lines, like the child line and the pair bond line, are going to update accordingly. So that becomes very, very useful when you have a very large diagram and you want to move a whole section of the family at once. So you can keep on going. If I want to add parents to this person, you have to add the people before the pair bond, because you have to have something to draw between for the pair bond. So you just do the same thing. Now I've got a second pair bond, and now I'm going to draw. In order to make a child, I've got this child of symbol selected. I'm going to start in the child and go up to the pair bond. So you actually have to put the people on the diagram before you put a symbol that connects people. And the diagram itself doesn't really have any, it doesn't enforce, for example, biological sex or gender or any of these things for who you connect in these relationships. So for example, I can put another female here, and I can take this pair bond symbol and make this connection here. And now I've got 2 females and a male connected to this female. And you can tell that that's so, even though this looks like it's just one line here. You can tell that's so because when you drag this female down, you can see that she's got her own line to this female here. It's just that when you have them properly aligned, then it draws it like this, which is a little cleaner. So sometimes you have to kind of pull them down a little bit to figure out who exactly is connected to who. But that is definitely a clean way to have it drawn. Now another little trick here, if you want to align people vertically, like for example, these are, for each generation, a lot of times you want to have them really lined up nicely horizontally or vertically, depending on how you look at it. So if I want to line these 2 up, then I just click this person, I want to pull her down. I could do it, I could just eyeball it and do it like that, and that's actually what I do most of the time. But sometimes I want to get it perfect. And so what you do is you click and hold, and while the mouse is down, you hold down the shift button. Either shift button, and then just drag a little bit, and you can see it puts a little line in there just as a guide, and it snaps her to that alignment position. The same thing happens here. It just snaps to the closest one in order to help get these all just perfectly aligned. Same thing with these. If I do this and have 2 of them, it's going to snap whichever one I have my mouse on. So that's a little trick. Now one more important part here. You've got all these emotional process symbols, and I just want to talk about how to add them. For the most part, they work the same way as the pair bond symbol, which means that these are symbols that go between people. So if you want to add this conflict symbol here, you actually have to add the people that it connects first. So let's just say I'm going to connect these 2, this husband and wife, because a solid line means that they're actually married, with this conflict symbol. So I'm going to go click the symbol to enable that mode, and you can see the button gets dark there, just like it did for these other symbols. And this is a drawing symbol because it connects people, which means that I click and hold somewhere in the bounds of the person I want from the first person, and then drag with the mouse down, and you can see it's starting to draw the pair bond symbol, or the conflict symbol, and it'll highlight whatever person my mouse is under, right? So if I want to add it to a person, I just drag it until the right person is highlighted. Now I want to add it between these two, so I'm going to drag it to here, and I haven't let go of the mouse yet, but now I'm going to do it, and it's going to actually add that symbol. So now I've got two symbols connecting these two people. I have a pair bond symbol and a conflict symbol, and whenever I move one of these, it's automatically going to update the other symbols appropriately. So that's the principle with almost all of these, all but two. I can take the projection symbol, I start it between this one, point it down to this person. Maybe I want to add another one, start it from this person down to there. I've got this fusion symbol, I'm going to start from here and draw down to here, that kind of thing. It's always the same idea. Now, to delete a symbol, you either click it once, like this, to select it, or draw the box to select it, or select two, depending on what you want to do, but I'm going to select one here, this fusion symbol. And to delete it, you have three ways actually to do it. You can click this button, which means delete, or I'm going to go to this one. Now I want to delete this one. You can go up to Edit and Delete, and that deletes it there. Or I'm going to do it with this one. I can hit Command Delete. So you have a few ways to do that. So there's two symbols on here that don't work, that are not drawing symbols in the same exact way. The first one is reciprocity. So this is reciprocal functioning, over-functioning, under-functioning, or the adaptive pattern, or whatever it is you want to call it. One up, one down. It does actually, you do add it in the same way as the other drawing symbols. You start it on one person by clicking and holding, and then you drag and let go in the middle of the other person. But this one draws a little differently than the others. So I'm going to click and hold here, and then drag, and you can see that there's a line between my mouse and the person and an up arrow to the left of the person. And the line in the middle is just to help you remember who you're adding it between. And you can see when I hover over this other person that the down arrow appears with them. But if I move over to here, then it appears over that person. If I move over here, it moves to that person. So let's just say I'm going to move it between these people, and I'm going to let go now. And that line in between goes away because that was just a temporary indicator to make it easier to add. But now I've got these arrows between these two people. So they have an over-functioning, under-functioning reciprocity between them. There is one more symbol that's a little different, and that's the cutoff symbol. This is a monadic symbol. All these other symbols were dyadic, although with the exception of this child of symbol, that's a little different. But all of the other symbols are dyadic. They occur between people. This cutoff symbol, see when I click it and the button is enabled, and then you can see there's a highlight, just like with the male and female symbols. You can see that the symbol is drawn there, and then it highlights a person when I just hover over them like this. So I'm going to add it here to this male, because this cutoff symbol specifically means cutoff as it's defined most precisely in theory, which means cutoff between the generations. So that's between the child and the parents. And all that is a symbol that you click and hold, or not hold, but you click once to enable that mode here. So that button's black again. It's the background. You pull your mouse out here with the mouse button up, and then you just click it again to add it to a person like that. If I want to delete it, you delete it just like the other symbols. So that's how you get items on the diagram. There's all kinds of symbols here, and there's going to be another video that shows exactly what they mean. But those are the basic ideas of using the mouse. Oh, and there's one more that I want to add. It's just a shortcut key. So when I select a person here, I'm going to click them once, and you can see they're highlighted. That means they're selected. You'll see this button lights up. It's just a shortcut to add parents to this person. Like that. you can do it over and over again. It's just a way to get that tree building a little faster. But anyway, so you can add all of these symbols to the diagram here on the left. That's your palette. There are two more symbols at the bottom. These are just for annotating the diagram with arbitrary information that is not necessarily data. They have more to do with just getting a point across in a presentation. But these are layer items, and that comes much later, so I'm going to cover those in a different video. But data-wise, this is what you get to add. And I want to also point out that the items in this section are structure items. This means who's who and how they're related. This is reproductive structure. So that's this item, this item, this item, this item, this item. Everything in this section is function or behavior. So this is what they are, what the components of the family system are. These are what the components of the family system do. Cutoff, define self, alignment in a triangle, reciprocity, projection, fusion, all this sort of stuff. So that's just a way to organize it. So I hope that was helpful. Good luck, and look for the other videos on the other functions in the diagram.